they maybe have the wrong information. They tried to find him. They sent the little SWAT team with the little shit with the big gun. They came and he was taken into handcuffs. I told you that was wrong. I don't condone that shit. I don't give a fuck brother or not. Like, I hear what y'all are saying, but y'all, like, you can't, like, I don't condone that shit. It's more to the story, so I don't
Well, I don't understand how they will let him.
The night didn't begin with chaos, it began with a sound, a phone ringing in the dark. And now that single call has become the loudest echo in Atlanta. The streets are asking if Rasheeda and Kirk Frost, the couple who built an empire on image, were really the ones pulling the strings behind it all. The whispers don't say this was random.
Did y'all know that Kirk Frost, and Rasheeda's daughter reached out to a daggone T-Hood's mama and basically told her that, you know, he was on that T-Hood was on his way, that she basically kicked him out of the house or whatever because he kept on putting his hands on her, and that she wanted to send his clothes or whatever in a daggone Uber. And all the mother was talking about was, okay, thank you. Now, as y'all see, after the mother sit there and said, okay, thank you, Kay at the end of the thing talk about something nobody is trying to help her when it comes to his daggone abuse. Nobody tried to help her. Nobody was trying to help her.
The whispers say it was planned, a setup so cold it dragged their own blood. Kirk Frost into the fire and left T-Hood branded as the villain of a story he swears he never wrote. Every timeline is lit, every blog is on fire, and the question that chills spines is the same: was this chaos an accident, or was it the perfect trap designed by the Frosts themselves? Picture this: you're sitting at home, headphones on, and you hear that static crackle, that heavy pause before a voice whispers instructions. What would you think? Would you shrug it off as gossip, or lean in closer, feeling the hairs on your neck stand up? That's the effect this leaked audio has had. People don't just hear words, they hear intent. And the intent sounds dangerous. They say power couples protect their empire at any cost. For years, Rasheeda and Kirk have built their brand on loyalty, endurance, and surviving every scandal thrown at them. But what happens when the scandal isn't about cheating or money or business, but about life and death? This call doesn't just shake the Frost family, it rips the mask off the entire love and hip-hop machine, and right in the middle stands Kirk Frost, a young man told to stay calm, stay in control, and play his role. But play his role in what exactly? Let's rewind. The night of the incident that left T-Hood broken, confused, and publicly humiliated wasn't just chaos caught on, shaky phones, and blurry cameras. It was a chessboard where every move seemed decided long before. And now, with this call surfacing, fans believe the script was written before the cameras ever started rolling. On the tape, the voices don't just suggest, they instruct, they warn, they calculate. Kirk Frost allegedly tells Kirk Frost to keep his head low, to follow the plan. Rasheeda allegedly cuts in sharp, promising no footage would leak, insisting nothing would escape their control, and when Kirk raised the most haunting question, what if T-Hood didn't make it out alive, the answer wasn't shocking. It was silence, a pause that felt like a lifetime, followed by calm reassurance that everything would look like an accident. So ask yourself, does that sound like fear? Or does that sound like strategy? Fans online didn't wait for an official statement. They didn't need lawyers, PR spin, or damage control. They had the audio, they had the receipts, and they had the memory of how this case ended with Kirk Frost walking free, untouched, while T-Hood carried the weight of chaos. And when you connect the dots, the picture is darker than anyone imagined, because here's the truth nobody wants to say: if this leak is real, then Rasheeda and Kirk Frost weren't just parents defending their child, they were players manipulating the board, protecting their empire while sacrificing someone else's life. And who better than T-Hood, the rival, the outsider, the one whose downfall meant nothing to the Frosts, but everything to the empire they've spent decades building. Think about it. Every time you saw Rasheeda smile on camera, every time Kirk Frost played the role of the calm husband, were they hiding this? Were they carrying the secret of a call where their own voices could be plotting what fans are now calling the perfect cover-up? The internet isn't just speculating, they're dissecting. TikTok edits slow down the audio, looping that chilling line, stay in control. Twitter threads stretch for miles, pointing out how Kirk Frost looked too calm that night, how he avoided cameras, how he repeated the same phrases almost like they were rehearsed. And on YouTube, the breakdowns are brutal, with creators asking the one question the Frosts can't escape. If there was nothing to hide, why does this call sound like a blueprint? But let's be real, leaks don't just appear out of thin air. Someone, somewhere, wanted this truth or this version of the truth to be heard. And that raises the next twist. Who leaked the call? Was it an enemy inside the Frost circle? A producer tired of protecting reality TV's royal couple, or was it someone close to T. Hood, desperate to clear his name and prove that what went down wasn't his fault, but a trap he was pushed into? The beauty and the horror of this scandal is that the voices on the tape don't just speak. They echo through courtrooms, through contracts, through reputations. They echo in the silence of cast members who haven't said a word, who haven't tweeted, who haven't posted. And in this world, silence is never random. Silence is a shield. Silence is a signal dot. So where does this leave Kai Frost? The young man who once looked like a pawn in someone else's war now looks like the centerpiece of a setup. The world is asking, was Kai Frost truly innocent, or was he simply protected? Protected not by truth, but by parents who knew exactly how to pull strings. Protected by Rasheeda and Kirk Frost, protected by the Empire. And what about T. Hood? For months he's been painted as reckless, dangerous, the one who brought trouble on himself. But now, with every replay of that audio, people are questioning if he was the real victim all along. Was he the target, chosen because his downfall would cost the Frosts nothing but save everything they had? If you were T. Hood, watching the world laugh, watching yourself dragged through headlines while another man walked free, how would you feel hearing this leak now? Would you scream, "I told you so," or would you sit in silence, realizing the truth may never clear your name, because the people who set you up are too powerful to ever admit it? This is where the story turns dangerous, because leaks don't just entertain. Leaks destroy, and this leak, if believed, has the power to burn down everything Rasheeda and Kirk Frost spent decades building. The Frost brand, the family image, the survival story. It all starts to look like smoke and mirrors once you hear those words. Once you hear that pause, once you feel the chill of two voices planning in the shadows. The streets don't lie. The fans don't forget, and the internet never forgives. This isn't just another scandal anymore. This is a trial by public opinion. And in that courtroom, the evidence isn't hidden, it's trending. So tonight, the question isn't one APR team can spin, a contract can erase, or a reunion special can deflect. The question is simple. Did Rasheeda and Kirk Frost really set UPT Hood with Kai Frost as their weapon, or is this just the latest illusion in a game where truth is always the first casualty? Because if this leak is real, then the game is already over. And the Empire is already burning, but the storm didn't end with the leak. If anything, it grew louder, heavier, more dangerous until every timeline drowned in whispers. Rasheeda and Kirk Frost became the names dragged across every blog, every fan page, every late-night YouTube breakdown. People weren't just asking questions anymore, they were demanding answers. And at the center of it all sat Kai Frost, a young man who never asked to be caught in the middle of a war between fame, family, and betrayal. But once that audio slipped through the cracks, people stopped seeing him as a victim, they started seeing him as the key. If T. Hood was gone, then Kai Frost was the bridge, the one voice that tied the parents, the setup, and the cover-up together. What made it worse was the silence. Rasheeda didn't go live to clear her name, Kirk Frost didn't release a statement, Kai Frost didn't post a word, and if you've been around this industry long enough, you know silence is never just silence, it's strategy. When the world is screaming your name and accusations spread like wildfire, staying quiet isn't peace. It's control, and that silence screamed louder than any denial ever could. Fans became detectives. They pieced together timelines like puzzle. Masters, look at the footage, they said. Notice how Kirk Frost kept his phone in his hand all night. Notice how Rasheeda kept glancing over her shoulder like she was waiting for something. Notice how Kai Frost drifted in and out of frame, never too close, never too far, almost like he knew exactly when the cameras would catch him. To the public, these weren't coincidences. They were patterns, and once an audience starts seeing patterns, once they start building their own version of the story, truth doesn't matter anymore. Perception becomes reality. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered that T. Hood had been lured into a trap. They claimed the so-called meeting wasn't random, wasn't casual, but carefully staged like a chess move. Kirk Frost, long known for spinning narratives and pushing storylines, suddenly looked less like a cast member and more like a mastermind. Rasheeda, who built her brand on strength and survival, now looked less like a wife protecting her empire and more like a queen, guarding a secret at any cost. And Kai Frost, the son, the next generation, looked like a pawn forced into the middle of a game he could never truly win. But if this really was a setup, who was it for? Was it for the cameras? Was it for the storyline? Or was it for something? For darker, something that could never air on VH1? Something too real for any reunion special? Fans argue this wasn't just reality TV anymore. This was reality, the kind that shatters lives, the kind that erases someone like T. Hood. And once people started to believe Rasheeda and Kirk Frost had crossed that line, the conversation shifted. This wasn't about drama anymore. This was about crime. The bloggers smelled blood. YouTube titles screamed, "Rasheeda caught on tape?" Kirk Frost's son exposes the setup. T. Hood's final R's explained. TikTok edits layered the leaked call over grainy clips. Rasheeda smirking, Kirk Frost whispering, Kai Frost looking down. Millions of views piled up. And every spin pulled the public deeper into the rabbit hole. Was this entertainment? Or was this evidence? Was this a storyline? Or was this a confession? Meanwhile, whispers leaked that Kai Frost had broken down in private, that he confessed to a friend he never wanted to be involved, that he was told, just do as you're told and everything will be fine, that his own bloodline used him as a shield, as the face to distract from what really went down. And if that's true, ask yourself, what kind of parents set up their own son to carry the weight of another man's downfall? What kind of family silences their child's fear just to keep their empire intact? And then came the most chilling detail, not the leak itself, but the timing. The call didn't surface randomly. It dropped right after the network announced a Frost family spin-off. Right after producers teased a new direction for Rasheeda and Kirk Frost's brand. That's when people started asking if this was a warning. If someone inside the machine decided the truth was too dangerous to bury. If someone decided to pull the plug before the Frost empire grew stronger. So who leaked it? Was it a disgruntled producer? A cast member tired of playing along? Or was it T. Hood's people, making sure his name wouldn't be erased in silence? The silence of Rasheeda and Kirk Frost only made the questions louder. Because when you refuse to speak, people speak for you, and the stories they create are always worse than the one you could have told. Kai Frost became the symbol of that silence. Every shaky frame of him in the background, every nervous glance, every smirk was replayed until it looked like guilt. And once guilt sticks in the public eye, it's nearly impossible to wash away. So here we are, standing in the middle of a storm where nobody knows the full truth. Rasheeda won't speak, Kirk Frost won't admit. Kai Frost can't escape, and T. Hood can't defend himself. That's not a storyline. That's not a reunion cliffhanger. That's a tragedy, and the question remains. Was this just messy love and hip-hop drama, or was it the perfect crime hidden in plain sight? The storm was already violent, but what came next felt like the eye tearing open wider. Because if you thought those leaked calls were the final nail in this scandal, you'd be dead wrong. The calls were only the entry point. What unraveled after them was a chain reaction so wild, so twisted, that even seasoned fans of love and hip-hop Atlanta were left in disbelief. And at the heart of it all stood Rasheeda, Kirk Frost, and their son Kai Frost, now accused of orchestrating the setup that nearly ended T. Hood's life. The internet wasn't just replaying the call anymore, it was dissecting every second like a courtroom exhibit. Listen to how Kirk Frost pauses before saying accident. One fan tweeted, "That ain't hesitation. That's calculation," another added. "Did y'all catch how Rasheeda cuts in cold as ice?" That's not the voice of a worried mother. That's the voice of someone running, and when Kai Frost's soft, nervous whisper was played back over and over, the phrase that broke everyone was chilling. What if T. Hood dies? 6 words that became captions across 1,000 TikTok edits stitched with footage of T. Hood smiling in old episodes, now reframed as a man walking straight into his own trap. But here's where it got even messier. The public replayed, but the streets responded, and in Atlanta, whispers travel faster than Wi-Fi. People started saying this wasn't just a leaked call, this was one of several. An entire back-channel operation that involved producers, cast members, and outsiders who knew way too much. That week was chaos. Paparazzi swarmed outside Frost Bistro, fans cornered Rasheeda at the mall, screaming if she had blood on her hands. Kirk Frost, ever the stone-faced hustler, refused to crack. But his silence only fueled suspicion. Ain't no innocent man. Stay quiet when somebody accuses him of setting up murder. A blogger fired on Instagram, live.Kai Frost tried to disappear. But you can't vanish when the internet zooms into every blurry club photo, every reflection in a car window. And the way he ducked cameras, hoodie pulled low, only made people believe he was guilty. Then came the biggest twist, the second leak. 1 week after the first call surfaced, a new recording dropped. This time it wasn't Kai whispering, it was Rasheeda and Kirk Frost talking alone. The line crackled, the static hummed, and then Rasheeda's voice cut through, sharp as glass. If he asks questions, tell him it was about money. Don't let him think deeper. Then Kirk Frost, steady and low, by the time anyone figures it out, it'll be too late. We'll already be 3 moves ahead, 3 moves ahead. Those 3 words detonated like a bomb. Bloggers, fans, even rival cast members ran wild with it. What were the 3 moves? Paying off security, manipulating producers? Or something darker, erasing footage that could prove what really happened that night? The streets wanted answers, and so did T. Hood's camp. His family demanded VH1 release the raw tapes. But production clamped up, hiding behind legal concerns, which only convinced people the network was in on it. Imagine being T. Hood, waking up every day knowing your name is trending, not for music, not for hustle, but for being the man allegedly targeted in a setup. He went live one night, face lit by the blue glow of his phone, voice tight with anger. Y'all laughing like this storyline, this ain't no storyline, this my life. If something had happened to me, y'all would have been posting RIP instead of memes. Stop playing with me. Thousands of comments poured in support, outrage, disbelief. But buried in the chat was one line that froze the whole stream. Check your circle. The betrayal came from closer than you think. Nobody knows who wrote it. But fans screenshotted it, spread it, and linked it back to Kai Frost, because here's the brutal truth. While Rasheeda and Kirk Frost faced the headlines, it was Kai Frost who carried the heaviest weight. Was he just a pawn in his parents' plan, or an eager soldier following orders no child should ever hear? His nervous tone in the first leak told one story. His silence afterward told another, and yet, what if this was bigger than them? What if the setup wasn't just about T. Hood, but about protecting the Frost Empire? Think about it. For years, Rasheeda and Kirk built their brand on surviving scandal, cheating rumors, side babies, family drama. They turned wounds into storylines. But when those storylines stopped paying, what's left? Escalation. And T. Hood just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Then came the documentary. Twist, a whistleblower, an alleged production assistant, claimed they saw paperwork linking Rasheeda and Kirk Frost to staged incidents, not just this one, but others. Screenshots surfaced showing VH1 emails about controlling narrative in case of incident. People lost their minds. The Frosts went from reality stars to suspects in a conspiracy. Kai Frost went from rising sun to alleged co-conspirator, and T-Hood became a symbol. A symbol of what happens when entertainment collides with real life. So violently, someone almost doesn't walk away. By the time this chapter played out, everyone had picked a side. Some swore Rasheeda and Kirk Frost were guilty masterminds. Others insisted it was a smear campaign, enemies spinning fake leaks to destroy the family. But ask yourself, if you were innocent, would you stay silent? Or is silence the only way to avoid slipping up? And that's the haunting question. Because whether the calls were staged, spliced, or 100% authentic, the damage is done. The Frost family will never be seen the same. Kai Frost will never walk into a room without whispers trailing him, and T-Hood will never forget how close he came to being erased, not by fate, not by chance, but maybe, just maybe, by design. The case isn't closed. The calls aren't forgotten, and if Atlanta has taught us anything, it's that the truth always finds a way out. So ask yourself, were the Frosts just reality stars caught in a bad edit? Or were they the directors of a much darker film? Because until someone admits what really went down, every beep, every static hum, every whispered line will echo forever, and that's the tragedy, that's the legacy. That's the question that won't stop haunting Atlanta.